back to another exciting conversation here on effective living. I don't know about you, but I know this. The mere indication that I'm still here means God's not done with me yet. Hello, somebody. He is not done with me yet. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, listen. That dumb devil lost again. Yeah. You know what? We are now in the month of April 2023, and we are going at it in spite of what happened last month, what happened last year. You got to tell yourself the first quarter is gone. Come on, somebody. Yeah. You survived the first quarter of 2023. Bumps in the road and all. You survive what you listen. What took some people out, you have now surpassed. And that ought to make you shout right where you are. Tonight, we have a conversation. As you guys know, we keep it real. And this lady that I'm about to bring on, she is always on fire. Okay? She's always on fire. I wanna say my co-host tonight, Coach Della Major, you're an amazing woman of God. Welcome back to Effective Living. Are you ready for tonight?
Oh, I am so ready for tonight. I'm really so excited. Each and every time I get the opportunity to come and share with you, I get really excited. So I know that tonight is going to be impactful, inspiring, empowering others. So I'm ready. Okay, let's get it.
Let's do it. I must say you're glowing. What's going on in Chicago? You're glowing. You're looking like, listen, second quarter strong. Listen, what does the second quarter represent to you?
God is good to me. Not only am I, improving in my health, but I have launched another one of my initiatives, which is my podcast. And my podcast is based off my book, From Trigger to Transform. So that is moving forward and, getting some good responses there. The weather is changing. Instead of being icy cold, we now get into a nice little spring. It's just good all over. When I wake up in the morning, Coach, I just say, God, thank you for another day. I don't take any of these days for granted. So I'd rather have the joy of the Lord, which is my strength.
Yes, so good. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to continue a talk. Coach Della and I, we started a talk during our last interview, and we really dived into her new book. And let me tell you something, if you haven't went ahead and ordered this book yet, you need to order it. It's a must read. Not only is it a must read, it's one of those books you can't put down. Okay, you can't put down. You start reading it, but here's the deal. You don't read it just to become familiar with the stories and the point. You read it to be transformed. You read it to allow the principles in the book and the stories that are shared in the book to remind you, just as we've seen in the book, that Coach Della Major, listen, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world, and all things are going to work together for the good to them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So I'm so grateful that you did the book. Not only did you do the book, but look at the nice picture. Come on now, look at that picture. Come on. Now here's the deal. It's an easy read. It's a good read. And we're going to tell you how to get your copy of this book before the end of the show. So don't go nowhere. Okay? Now, Coach, listen, you talk about your story, and there are a lot of people who may have not gotten the principle of why you wrote the book and how the topic or the name of the book was established. Talk to us about that, From Trigger to Transform. Give us some understanding there.
A trigger is just an unexpected current event that really entice your emotions, or it's a reaction to something of either a life-changing event, whether it's a death in a family, a loved one, a divorce, a health crisis, whatever it could be, that really triggers those negative senses of mindsets and emotions. And so for me, what really put it over the top, I'm going to say, was I was very ill, and I was just on a phase of just trying to deal with just even receiving a diagnosis of a major health crisis, and my husband of 15 years asked me for a divorce. And I couldn't understand it, because at the moment that I needed him, this is the moment he's, doing this. And so that was the trigger that started me on a journey of self-discovery and my identity, because I put everything who I was, my character, my person. I've always dealt with abandonment and rejection since I've been 10 years old. And when I finally got married, I'm like, okay, I got somebody to love me. And
Yeah.
that didn't happen. And so it took me through phases of journey. And in the midst of those journeys of dealing with the emotional trauma, I had to deal with the financial trauma, the physical trauma of the separation and the grief. The mindset was lost. And so I wrote the book. God gave me the title From Trigger to Transform, because even though I have, and still in some sense with my health specifically, deal with those life challenges, I'm yet to transform. A transformed mindset is a growth mindset. That means no matter what circumstances that I'm in, I'm still an overcomer. I'm a champion. I'm a survivor. And so that's what I do. I promote, and I'm an empowerment coach, a transformational life coach by in profession. And so my goal is to inspire not only women but men, to let them know it ain't over. It ain't over until God says it's over. And life changes is just basically a diagnosis, that's the situation, but it's not the outcome.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not heard the in-depth story, you have to read it. You have to read it to appreciate it at its best. I'm telling you, Coach Della, she did an exceptional job in documenting her story. I want to talk about a couple of things you mentioned in there. One, divorce. There are a lot of people who've gone through divorce. There are some people who are going through divorce. I went through a divorce. Divorce is painful. Divorce, I've heard someone said this before. No one gets married to get divorced.
No.
Okay? No one gets married to get divorced. The idea of divorce, as a matter of fact, if you came from, I believe, a spiritual, religious background like both you and I, we say don't even use the D word.
Okay.
Yeah, don't even, because you feel as though it's something you're exempt from. You're not going there. We're not going there. Let's talk about that for a moment, because there are some people who are facing that reality. And then one, the pain of divorce is so heart wrenching. But then oftentimes people wonder, can I survive divorce? What is their life after divorce? What's your view on the whole concept of, one, divorce do happen, but it don't have to break you.
Right.
It oftentimes break a lot of people. A lot of people don't come back after divorce because of the pain of it. What's your whole view about that whole element of divorce? And being a Christian, being a minister in God's church is even harder.
And that's it. You just said the exact word, being a Christian. You read the word of God and you study it. I'm a student of the word. You're a student of the word.
Yeah.
And, when you read in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, where it says a husband thou bound to the wife, wife bound to the husband. And, we two operating as one. And it says you not to, with the exception of adultery, no man or whatever should be setting aside a woman. But, when you go through this and you are a pillar at your worship or a place of worship or ministry, here comes shame.
Here
comes guilt, because now the question comes, wait a minute, you're a Christian, you saved, you're an elder of the church, and you tell me you can save your own marriage, but you counseling others. And so in a separate and in addition to just the fact of the separation, you got to deal with all of the other emotions that ties in, that makes you think like, man, I'm a failure. I'm such a failure, and how can I stand before the people of God and I'm preaching the word and I'm going through this? It's so many things happen. But at the time when I was dealing with that, I didn't take on this mindset, I don't care, I'm getting divorced, I'm just gonna move on. No, I was ashamed, and I even did so many things to try to bring about reconciliation, because Christ is about reconciliation, but it didn't happen. And so I had to walk around for over a year and a half just trying to figure out, who am I now? I'm no longer Mrs. that person. I'm no longer that wife in the ministry. People see me, they used to see him, now they don't see him. And I'm not the type of person that put my business out in the street, because I don't want people to know. So then I'm getting to, here come depression. Hello, depression not gonna go. Here comes shame, here comes guilt, here comes, all of those emotions that before you didn't go through. And let me just say this too, Coach. I wasn't thinking about faith. I wasn't thinking about God. I wasn't thinking about the word. I was just like, wait a minute. I'm no longer married
Yeah.
Christian woman. And my identity
Yeah.
was tied into that.
Correct.
So it was such a terror. It was such a rip, a force. You know, like you said, some people can't get over that because you start thinking, I don't invested 15 years of
Yeah.
my life to this marriage, and this is what I get from it.
Yeah. You know, Coach, there are a lot of people today. There is this internal fight, as you're just mentioning, this fight that's within. And can I live life effectively? Can I now move from trigger to transform? And the struggle is real because there is an internal fight. There's an internal fight. There is shame. There's pride. There is guilt. There is anger. There is loss. There's so much type
Yes.
going on there. Let's talk about this one in the church element, though. People's opinions. How long that one stick around. Oh my
You
Lord.
know, that one there is man, you get a double check on that one because now everybody want to tell you what you could have did or did you guys go to marriage counseling? Did you talk to the pastor? Did you talk to this couple over here? Or I don't understand. I mean, it was so many opinions to the point it became judging. It came to the point now I was being judged, especially by the men who was very close to him. And then the females who were close to me was like, oh, he's nothing but a dog, you know, and all that. The situation. And so people's opinion is amazing how they so easily to tell you what you should do. But this is something that I found out. It's like, it's amazing how you going through this, but then when it happens to them, then the opinion turns to, it's not my story, it's her story against my story. But you was not saying that a couple months before when I was the one in this hot seat. You was being judgmental. And the sad part about it is there's no love. The First Corinthians 13 about love. Of all the things that you did, it says of all the gifts that you can have, the greatest one is love. Seek out love. And if you are, since God is love, you know, you should be striving to be able to exemplify that love, regardless of, you know, the situation. And so for that, love was not there. It truly was abandoned. And people's opinion can really tear at a person, especially if you're already dealing with your inner demons that's you trying to overcome. And now you got the church that should be helping me, tearing me down.
You know, Coach Della, I've been teaching lately the power and purpose of learning how to live from inside out. And the truth be told, most people don't live from inside out. Most people live outside in. Meaning everybody else's opinion, because you know, from the time you were born, it was your parents' opinion, which we're going to get into that in a moment. Then it's the teacher's opinion, right? It's the coach's opinion, it's the minister's opinion, it's your in-laws' opinion, you know, it's your friend's opinion. So a lot of people have never lived based on their principle of who they are and what they're about. And so we live with this whole everybody else's opinion, and then we hit this roadblock. I remember calling somebody when I was going through a horrible time, going through my divorce, and I was talking to someone. I said, I need your advice, and they said, I can't give you any advice on that. Whatever God says to you, you're gonna have to embrace and walk through. Nobody tell you what you want me to tell you, and that's what the person said to me, and that was hard because I had only known how to make decisions based on other people's opinion or other people's advice. You know, hey, watch this. Let me go talk to the pastor. And so if the pastor says it, it's okay. Let me go talk to my mom or my dad. If my mom or dad says it, it's okay. Let me call my girlfriend, or let me call my best friend, my buddy, and it's like very few people have done the work. Figure out, what do I need to do? Now I'm at this junction in my life. I'm going through a divorce. I'm going through loss. I'm going through a level of emotions that is mind-blowing. And a lot of times you sit in a good therapist chair. They don't tell you still. They just help you to discover.
Yes.
They just help you to navigate yourself through what you're going through. It's not a telling, it's about helping you to simply know that you have the strength within to surpass or to overcome
Right.
anything that you're going through. Let me ask you this. When it comes to inner work, how
Mhm.
important is it when we're talking about trigger to transform, that inner work, that becoming one with what some now call your truth, to know that even if your parents don't agree and your neighbors don't agree,
Come on.
but you got to put on the mask on your face first
Yeah.
to make sure that you're good. And inner work demands that you good with what you make.
That's
What
it.
do you got to say about that?
You know what you just said is that's it. Self-care is everything. You have to be able to do one. And this is the first thing that I had to learn eventually. And this is what God showed me. I had to love myself because I did not love myself at that moment. You know, when you're going through these storms or weather, you oftentimes begin to start doing that self check. And that self check said, what did you do wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. That did you cross your eyes, dot the T's? And like I said, I kept saying, well, I wonder if I would have loved him more, if I would have did more as a wife, if I would have shown him more support, would he would have stayed? I kept saying, what is it that I did that pushed him away? Who said I pushed him away?
Come on, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was me.
Right.
It's easier to begin to put that pressure on you because we are the main people that tear each other down because
Yeah.
we have learned to be so much for other people. When it comes down to ourselves, we don't do the same thing. And that was the first thing I had to learn in my recovery phase of transformation is I had to learn to love myself. I had to learn to forgive myself because of the fact that I kept thinking failure. I kept looking at failure that I failed. I failed as a woman, I failed as a wife, and I especially failed as a Christian because I should not be going through that because this is what the word of God said. And as a Christian, I took the human side away. I killed my humanness. I killed it to the point that I kept saying, I'm a Christian, I should be going through that. But I'm also a woman.
Wow.
I'm also a human. So that inner working, you got to work on the inside out first before you could do anything for anybody or even allow anyone to help you. The first case is you got to say to yourself, I am forgiven.
Yes. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to forgive yourself because if you don't, you're going to always say it's your fault. No, take care of self first. And that is the most important thing when you're going through any life changing event, any type of traumatic event. You got to take that moment to do that self reflection and take care of you. Because if you are not in that equation, taking care of somebody else is making you and making the situation even worse.
Wow. Wow. The power of self-talk in your journey, ladies and gentlemen, is important. Okay. What you keep telling yourself will become true to you even more so, even if it's a lie. So you have to pay attention to what you say. And I'm listening to Coach Dell, and you hear what she said. She started off by saying, I'm forgiven. I'm forgiven. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. I'm not a failure. My marriage might have not worked out, but I'm not a failure. You know what? I'm not done. As a matter, at some point, you better learn how to say that to yourself. I'm not done. And here's the deal. That phase of my life won't define my entire life. Let me say that again. That phase of my life won't define my entire life. On some people, they allow it to define them. Along the way, coach, along the way, you found yourself having gone through some really challenging times. You mentioned rejection. You mentioned, and I was looking in your book, and this chapter where you talked about death of the American dream, that whole, sudden, unexpected impact. And a lot of people, they don't know that this can happen to anybody. Uh, Sudden, unexpected impact, distress. That whole concept, learning how to now live with that. Let's talk about that whole point SUID. Let's break that down for some of our viewing audience.
When people hear the word SIDS, they often think about sudden infant death syndrome, because that's a situation where a child, an infant, not even quite a year old, when they lay down, they just don't wake up.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, how God gave this to me is He gave it to me as sudden unexpected impact stress, because I was going through a major challenge. And in going through that major challenge, I just got out of the hospital. I was, dealing, like I said, with my health. They just told me that my kidneys was failing and that I had to get ready to get started dialysis. I had lost, the connection. My mom was not here. It was just so many things impacting me all at once. And it caused a sudden distress, to the point that I did not know what to do. There was an instantaneous death. And when I think about when I did label this section, Death of the American Dream, the American dream that we're taught, especially in a young age, especially ladies, the American dream: get a good job, have a husband, have a children, and a nice home. That's the American dream. You have that, everything is supposed to be great. And now it's a caveat. It's like ice cream and icing on the cake when you have it and you got both of the husband and the wife in the household. The children is happy. You live in your life. You have this with love of Christ. But then you have an incident, a traumatic situation that occurred, and it just instantaneously not only kills, but it's destroyed. It's a death that's unrepairable. And in my particular case, it was a death that was unrepairable. The dream of me finally finding love was gone. The dream of me at that time in my mindset, the dream of me being valued as a woman was gone. And then at the same time, here it is, my health is gone. My husband is gone. My mother died. That was a distress like no other. And we called that because it was not something simple. It was sudden. And just like it was with my sister Felicia in that chapter that I talked about, my mother was so in her grief to the point when the EMT doctors came to, do CPR, and they turned my sister over and patted her back, and she spit out a blood clot. They turned to my mother and told her that she was gone. But my mother, in her grief, turned to me and said, I killed my sister.
Wow.
And that, at the age of 10, my whole life changed. The American dream was out. I often say I went from being a kid to now being 18 years old, a young adult. Then, because what following that impact, not only distress, it was to the point of at the age of 15, I tried to take my life because I couldn't deal with everything that had happened up until that time. So that was a sudden thing. So I don't know, like an average kid, when they are going through the phases of, childhood, adolescence, the 10-year-old, the 11, the preteen phases. I don't have that because I went from this to that.
Yeah.
And so that was an impact that brought distress in my life since I've been 10. And I've been dealing with it ever since then, but in a different mindset now.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking with Coach Della Major, and we're diving into her book, From Trigger to Transform. Here's the deal. The truth is, you live long enough, you'll discover life will throw you a few bumps in the road, and some of those bumps in the road will come across feeling like a Category 5 hurricane or a tornado or a blizzard, or there's just so many different forms of disasters that our world face. And sometimes personally you feel as though you too could be going through a disaster or went through something that you don't know. Can I make it through this? Let's talk about that for a moment. We're going to go back and talk about your story, but I just really want to make sure those who are watching, I want you to know that no matter what you go through, you can make it. You can make it. The mindset for one to have that established in their life. Talk to us.
That's it, Coach. That's it. I got to give you a clap on that because it does start here. And when your mind, because remember, the heart is the epicenter of your soul. And what's in your soul's realm is your mindset. when your mind think it, so is your heart gonna do it. It's gonna move everything that's within you to carry out what it is. So your mind and your heart gotta line up one on one. And so if you thinking that this is the death, this is over, your life is over, then your heart is gonna respond to that, and you're gonna have that lack of will to live.
Yeah.
I teach now that it's not about the diagnosis. It's not about the weapon. Because yes, the weapon might form, but it shall not prosper. When you change your mindset, it says that by the renewing of your mind, when you get that growth mindset, when you get that mindset that I am a champion, I am a fighter, this is not going to break me, I'm going to overcome. You've seen people who have from paraplegic to traumatic external, like you said, injuries, but they are still here. You got people who don't have limbs that's moving better than people with limbs.
Correct.
So when you look at a situation like that, what the revelation that God showed me was this. I might, in my situation, think that this is the worst, but there is somebody out there who's even worse than me. And if they can keep going, who am I to say that I can't? So I teach now, your diagnosis does not determine your outcome. You not only can make it, but you can be better. That's the reason why I said a change bring a change. A little simple movement, a little simple shift in your thinking and in your action would shift the whole trajectory of an outcome of a situation. You don't have to always do something grand. The mini wins is what I teach. Go for those mini wins, because you get those mini, you're going to have a macro.
Okay.
Because 1 + 1 = 2. And God has a multiplication system that we can't even imagine. So that's something. You got to start here. If you don't have it here, nothing else is going to be there.
Along the way, Coach Della, along the way, most people don't realize they're built to last by all of the dynamics that actually come into play. At 10 years old, you're working. At 10 years old, you're on the west side. I think it was, right? You're on the west side. At 10 years old, you're gaining a level of independence and a level of strength. Because the truth be told, you don't know what's coming.
I don't know.
You don't know what's coming. And if when you look back over your life, you say, you know what? Boy, God was really putting the pieces together to help give me sustaining power to be able to, when I was going through a very difficult time in my life, I was talking to my mother and I said, Mom, they say you ain't gonna make it out of this. She said, well, you better tell them where you grew up. Tell them from whence you came, okay? Just you better talk to yourself. She said, you from Soldier Road. Come on now, And so how important is that for you to stir up an understanding or be that of David who says, hey, King, I may not be a man of war, but let me tell you what I've done. I've killed both lions and bear, and God was with me. Hello, God was with me. And if God was with me then, he's going to be with me now. How important is that particular mindset?
That particular mindset is not only important, but it's actually, what you might say, is that fuel to the fire of you moving on, not just moving to another level, but for you thriving. See, it's not just about surviving. It's about thriving. It's about going to the levels that it's important. You got to remember, take a step back and just appreciate your past. Because if you don't take that step back and appreciate your past, you can't really honor and enjoy the present, because it's what you went through in the past that helped you to be fortified, helped you to be able to endure, helped you to be, like you said, come from Soldier Road, and me coming from the west side to be able to go through anything. So now when the storms of life is raging, you now have in your toolbox some tools of remembering, some tools of overcoming, some tools of just reflection, and saying, if God brought me back from then, surely he's going to bring me back for now. And hey, what he said, I'm going to give you double
Yeah.
for your trouble.
Hopefully.
You know what? There's a season in life and everything. It tells us that we're going to go through trials and tribulations. That's James chapter 1. But it says, count it all joy. You want to say, count it all joy that I'm going through this? Yes, because it builds up your comeback muscle like never before.
Ladies and gentlemen, count it all joy. This too shall pass. I am going to win in spite of what I'm going through. You got to learn to declare with confidence, God is on my side.
That's it.
I'll tell you something. He's prepared me for such a time as this. Now, what you may have to do is you may have to dig up and refer to and you know and go inside and remind yourself, I survived elementary school. I survived middle school. I survived the corner that I grew up on. I survived the neighborhood. I survived the divorce. I survived the surgery. I survived. And let me tell you something. Remind yourself. Stir up yourself. Learn to. Oh man! Until you can speak to yourself. Yes. There are times you have to speak to yourself. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal, Coach Della. I want to talk about. You talk about this whole element of, you know, you're feeding this concept for a while. I want to know, when did you shake it off? This, your mom spoke that to you, and she said, you know, you killed my child, and then you having to carry that for a while. But then at some point you have to realize, you know what? You know, sometimes people say things, and they're saying things not because of what you did or who you are, but where they are and what they actually is going through. And if you don't know how to allow them to say what they say without it impacting you, because a lot of us at that age, clearly you wouldn't have known how to deflect and be like, hold on, no, you know, let that, you know how young people used to say, church, no, I'm not taking that. Talk to us about it, because at some point you have to realize, okay, here's a hurt woman or a hurting woman. Here's a woman who, you know, clearly was dealing with something beyond what she knew how to manage, and did something that was heart-wrenching, hurtful. She spoke that on me, and I carried it for a while. And how did you navigate through eventually shaking that off?
It was the moment that I found Christ the very first time. And it was that moment because I read in the scripture in Psalms 139 that I was beautifully and wonderfully made. But then he took me to Psalms 27, and he said, even if my mother and my father forsake me, that he will be there to recover me. And God met me right where I was. And that was the first moment that I realized that I had to have purpose, because what happened was I started to see my life starting from the moment when I tried to attempt suicide at the age of 15, by turning 16. I started seeing all of the things that I did. It was literally like I was in this, trapped inside of this like revision wheel, and it was just sharing my story. And I kept seeing, in spite of all of that I went through, I'm still here. And then just literally, it was my aunt who had, and before she passed away, had said that my mother only knew what she knew based off of what you just said, how she was raised by my grandmother. And so I literally, after I was reading the word and really allowing God to touch my heart, I had to learn to do one word: forgive.
Wow.
It was not until I probably was right in my 20s, I had to really look my life over and see how truly blessed I was, and literally said to my mother, I forgive you. And it was at that moment that it finally broke for me. And from that breaking, and from me saying, I forgive her, then now it was the training for me to move forward to now, like, if I get married, I'm going to do it. If I have children, I'm going to make sure, you know, all of that. So I stopped allowing her be the factor, and I started to try to do things to really help me to have some joy in my life. So when I got married,
Mhm.
Now I found the love that I've been looking for, and I put everything into it.
Yep.
And so now my identity was no longer this girl, this 10-year-old child who was told she killed her sister, who went through this tumultuous relationship with her mother and almost dying at her own hands, to now I'm a Christian woman, I'm married, I'm saved, I got my daughters, and I'm a husband, and he loves me.
Yep.
That's the reason why it was the trigger,
Yep.
because that trigger of him asking me for a divorce took me right back to where I had started from the beginning: abandonment and rejection.
Wow. Abandonment and rejection, ladies and gentlemen, it is something a lot of people have not think about in
Yeah,
regards to doing the work to make sure they address it.
yeah,
Along the way, you pick up these dynamics, you pick up these behavior, these pain points that actually is fed from abandonment. It's fed
mhm,
from, that this is what I've gone through.
yeah.
This is what I've gone through. So now what do I do? What do I do? Coach Della, talk to somebody who's struggling right now, because it's amazing. Uh, there is no set age where you're exempt from this.
No,
You
no,
know, there,
no. I'm sorry. It definitely is no exact age, because like I said, I just wrote the book, but even as I was writing the book last year, I was just really so in awe of everything that I went through, and I realized, you know, I never dealt with the problem.
wow.
I never dealt with it. So dealing with when my ex husband asked me for the divorce, it wasn't even the fact of him asking me for the divorce. It was everything else behind it: the shame, the guilt, the abandonment, the rejection. And I realized at that moment, until I get to the root of me going through all of that, and if I get to the root of my pain, I'm going to, even if I get married again, that situation can happen again.
Yeah.
So I had to go on this self-discovery journey. And this is what I would tell someone. You got to be able to take a moment to reflect on where you are now, but reflect on the past. I'm not saying stay in it, but if you have not dealt with that pain
Yeah.
that you suppressed and you put in that hidden closet that you thinking God don't know is there, until you really deal with that. That means go through the tears, go through the motion, go through the discovery of really uprooting the root cause of your despair, your distress, your hurt, your pain. You're going to still be in that cycle of sorrow. It was not until I dealt with it, I mean, really had to deal with it and learned the steps of changing the trajectory of the outcome.
Wow.
It was the words that was spoken over me. So I took those words and wrote them down. You ain't gonna be nothing. You're not gonna have anything. You're gonna be this. You're gonna be a public assistant. Then I took the words that was spoken to me by God. No, I'm an overcomer. I am success. I'm the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. I had to rewrite my story.
Yeah.
I had to take the words of affirmation and replace those negative words, negative self-talk, with those words that's going to tell me my value. And I had to redefine my self-worth. And it was not until the end when I started seeing myself not as a bad thing. I started saying, wait a minute, I got passion. I am powerful. God has given me wisdom. And why? Because his word says so. So the main thing is you got to know who you are. You got to understand that you have purpose. You got potential. You wasn't created in your mother's womb bad. He said, before you enter into your mother's womb, I knew you. So if God is perfect in all your ways and he created me, who told me that I was bad? Who told me that I'm not worth it? Who
Yes.
said that? The devil is a liar. So I had to rechange those words and I had to rewrite my script. And now, better please.
Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight you are enjoying an in-depth conversation with Coach Della Major. We're talking about from trigger to transform. Let me tell you something. It is so important for you to understand everybody has a story. You see people on the outside and they're living their best life. You know what? You may just want to ask them, hey, tell me a little bit about your story. I want to talk about that. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Okay. We'll be right back to close out our show. I want to talk about that. Everyone has a story, and the fact of that, I like what you talk about a lot in regards to the book, and that is a cycle of sorrow. That whole cycle of sorrow. There are some people who are dealing with cycle of sorrow that has to be broken. And I believe that you're anointed for this, Coach Dell. I believe that you're the woman called to help those people who feel as though that they're going from one issue to the next issue to the next issue. And at some point, something has to break. We'll be right back after this. Check this out. Don't go nowhere.
Please join me in welcoming Ricardo Miller.
That you do better when you're enjoying what you do. How many of y'all agree with that? As individuals who are called to the next generation, a part of our mission should be to help every child to become all that they were created to be. Education is becoming more difficult in working with young people today because young people are looking for application more than information. Everything's changing now. And we know that. We know that everything's changing. We have to now commit to being willing to change. When frustration enters this next school term, you got to remind yourself, if it's a skill, I can improve it. It's something you have to remind yourself every day when you're working with these kids. If it's a skill, I can improve it. And so I'm going to do better with these kids because here's the deal. I can learn, I can grow, I can become. Not because I've become qualified to make it here means that that's where it stops. When all that's happening in my life, guess what's going to be the key to making it this next turn? I'm an educator. Come on, say it with me. I'm an educator. I love doing what I do. Come on, put your hands together if you believe that. 2 or 3 people around you and say, you got this. There you go. I have learned how to show up 100%.
Coach Della, you know, as I mentioned before we went to a quick break, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Hey, watch this. Your pastor has a story. Mm-hmm. Your mom has a story. The president has a story. The mayor has a story. The teacher has a story. The principal has a story. That entrepreneur who owns the gas station down the street has a story. Everybody has a story. Most people aren't taking the time to learn other story. Yeah. It is like when you learn someone's story, the appreciation for who they are goes to a whole nother level. How important is it for us to accept the fact that not only does everybody has a story, but we should try to do our best to learn that story and respect the story. Why is that important?
Well, our relationships is formed by you getting a level of understanding of who it is that you are connecting yourself with. And that's part of, building up what you might say your tribe. It's a part of, building up those individuals that is going to be there to support you, the ones that you're connecting yourself to. But at the same time, it is doing what the very basic principles of what the Bible tells us in Matthew 28. He said, go and make disciples. If he's telling us to go and make disciples, it's important for you to be able to connect with the individuals so that you can meet them where they are. There are some people who, like in my particular case, probably, will feel that nobody really understands what I'm going through, and they will internalize what they've gone through and never speak of it. But when they hear that they are not alone, when they hear that there's someone actually out there that went through what I've gone through, now is an opportunity for them to see that it's a possibility. You are giving them a life and creating them a life of possibilities. Because if we don't know the story, if we don't understand it, we don't even be a map and a model for some people, by sharing our story or letting people to know where we came from, then there's somebody that you are connected with that is waiting for you to come out so that they can come out. And if you're not doing what God created us to do and why we were saved to do, then what it is, that's somebody who's actually going through, still suffering and going through, like I said, that pain point and the pain because of the fact they feel that they don't have nobody that truly understand. But isn't it amazing when you are sharing your story or when you understand somebody's situation and you can say, you're not alone. I went through, but let me tell you how I got through it.
Yeah.
And then now you're giving them a step, a tool that they never had before. And then at the same time, it's one key word: empathy. Remember, the children of Israel was suffered for 400 years before God brought them out of, that to the Exodus experience. So they couldn't just say, hey, our God is a great God. No, because he was not only the God for them, he was the God for us. And reality, when you don't share your story, that means you can't be thinking that you are pumped up, because the same thing that you're going through, the same vice that what you do, it can come back onto you even the more twofold. So there's somebody who needs you. And that's somebody you've been assigned to. So it's time for you to be able to understand those individuals so you can do what the real reason why you even have the gifts or the purpose that you have from the beginning.
Amen. Amen. I totally agree with that. I think those divine connection are at a higher level when we embrace the stories that comes behind the individual we're meeting or doing life with. And unfortunately, this is something I didn't know a long time ago. I didn't embrace it a long time ago, to learn the stories of why and how people came to where they are today. A lot see somebody say, you see the glory, but you
don't know the story.
You don't know the story, right? You don't know the story. Let's talk about this as we bring our talk to a close and to an end. Cycle of sorrow, that whole term, cycle of sorrow. What makes you reiterate that element of cycle of sorrow when it comes to these conversations? Because I've heard you say it before, and I know why. I believe I know why. But talk to somebody about it, because I believe it is a reality in a lot of people's lives. And I think a lot of people haven't addressed it. And I think they're finding themselves dealing with it continuously. And sometimes if you deal with something for so long, sometimes your willpower disappears.
It not only disappears, literally you back in that cage, you like that animal in the cage that don't want to come out. And then eventually what happens is not only your willpower will dissipate, but then you eventually die. And the thing about the cycle of sorrow is where it came from was, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. It's the same thing with the cycle of sorrow. If you hang around the same people the same way, who got the same language and the same negative talk, who's not even trying to strive to move forward, then that means misery loves company. And you're going to continue on, keep going into that pain point. You're going to continue on doing the same thing over again. Then you're going to continue to go into that mindset that's going to say, oh man, this is what it is. I might as well just deal with that. I might as well it is because I don't see myself getting out of that. This always happened to me, but you never did anything different. And then you never even looked at the problem. You never gave yourself the opportunity. You would rather still say, oh, wow, I wish I could do that. Do it. Oh, no, I can't do that because that. Okay, but he said this, and well, I see what she's going through, so I guess I got to go through the same thing. Well, at least I already know. That's that same cycle. They don't want to strive for anything else. They don't want to continue to do anything else. But my job as a transformational coach
Yeah.
It's to smack you out of that cycle spiral.
Yeah.
It's to help you to see that, you know, you don't have to keep going and doing the same thing over and over again. One simple shift, like taking somebody to an opera. That's what happened to me. Taking somebody to an opera show and showing that even though I might live in the poorest part of the city of Chicago, there's a whole nother world out there. There's something even bigger and greater. Now, you don't change my whole think pattern, because if you change the think pattern of pain and grief, then that gives a person the hope, that gives them to be inspired that I might go through this, but trouble don't last always. Eventually, one day I'm going to get out of that. One day I'm going to do one day. And what they start doing, they stop going through the cycle. They stop implementing things to help them to get to the point that they can say, not only that one day, but my time, my change has come. A change bring a change. That is what I use to destroy my cycle of sorrow, because it just kept seeming like every person I was dating, boom, everything that I did, I always had that. I never got a chance. And then it was just like, I just started accepting it. That's how it's going to be. So I might as well make the best out of it. No, the devil is a lie. It says God came to give us an abundant life, and that life more abundantly. So you can't tell me this, what I'm going through is my life. No, you got to begin to shift your trajectory, maximize your full potential, see that you got value inside of yourself, understand your self-worth, and know one thing. That's the line that I wrote in my book. You got to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you don't know what you like, you don't know what you dislike, you don't know if you want to go there, you don't know like go this way, you don't know your colors, then the fact that you're going to stay there. But when you know who you are,
come on,
you change that look, you change that thinking, you change that outcome. A change bring a change.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been another exciting conversation here on Effective Living. Listen, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Put on that notification bell. Listen, I'm trying to go to the next level, okay? Come on, the likes, the comments, the share, it all helps the platform out. But listen, if you have not purchased this book yet, get your copy today. I'm pushing this book this year because I feel as though this is the difference maker for a lot of people. Okay, this is a difference maker. And here's what I know. There are so many people who are stuck. And they're wondering, how can they get through? Well, when you read the story that's in this book, you'll discover that the same God that was with Coach Della Major is the God that is also with you. And you got to remind yourself, if he can do it for her, he can do it for me too. I believe this is one of the reasons why I have different co-hosts along with different guests on the platform. I'm not called to everybody. When the Bible says, my sheep know my voice and a stranger they'll not follow. When you hear Coach Della talk, when you read her book, you then realize that's the woman who needs to be my coach. That's the person who's going to help me get out of this pit. That's the person who's going to help me get out of this stronghold. That's the person who's going to help me to break this cycle. All of us are called to somebody.
Yeah.
And my assignment in life is to find those who have been called to, but also encourage those who hear me, but not called to me, to find who they're called to. And I'm telling you, you're listening today, and Coach Della Major is the woman for you. If you know you need help, don't allow yourself to become familiar with the interview to the point where you think it's just another live talk. No. Tell yourself, listen, the next season of my life is going to be the best season of my life. I love how God used this woman to get out of what she went through. And when you read the book, you're going to realize, oh, Lord, yeah, she's equipped to help me. Not only is she certified as a life coach, she's also certified with life experiences to tell you, if she can come through what she came through, you too can come through what you're going through. Coach Della Major, do me a favor and tell our viewing audience how they can contact you, how they can follow your platform, and how they can purchase your book.
Well, my book itself currently is From Trigger to Transform. As you can see, From Trigger to Transform. It's a journey of self-discovery and purpose. You can purchase it on my website, which is You Can Live, and live is spelled LYVE. com, or you can get it directly from Amazon. It is on Amazon, is doing pretty well, so I'm very thankful for that. But also, you can connect with me on the social media platform. You can connect with me on Facebook as Coach Della Major, and then you also can connect with me on Instagram as I am Della Major. But as you heard me say earlier in my journey, my podcast is out, and we're having some powerful conversations that comes on every Tuesday. I welcome you to go on either Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever podcast is playing. You'll be able to find From Trigger to Transform with Coach Della Major, and we got powerful testimonies that's on that podcast, as well as me sharing and providing you some tips about overcoming and how to really start life over. That's what I'm all about, giving you the steps on developing a recovery plan on how it is you can start life over to where you are thriving and not just surviving.
That's what's up, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, guys, every week, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we're here. Now, what we want you to do is don't just hear what we're saying, embrace what's being said. Go ahead and follow Coach Della Major. Make sure you get her book. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, don't forget Effective Living 5K is coming. It's fast approaching. Get registered. Go to the website. We want to make sure we ship out all of the shirts on time. We want you to come out and have a blast with us. Now, Coach Della, you came to a 5K. You came. Come on now. You showed up.
Awesome. And I'm going to be on another 5K. I mean, I know April is fast approaching, so I want to make April, but I know you're going to have another one. I'm going to be right there.
Most certainly.
Getting my run on. It was phenomenal. I'm telling you, if you have not participated in a 5K run or walk, and you can also bring a bike, right?
Yep. You sure could.
Too, if you want to just ride your bike, I'm telling you, you want to be there. The fellowship, the camaraderie, as well as the exercise of building up. Look, health, fitness is important in this season, so you need to get into your fitness.
Yes. So I so appreciate you, Coach Della. You're amazing. You did not only come to our 5K, you also did the cruise in October past. And ladies and gentlemen, this lady is amazing. I love her. I'm looking forward to getting to Chicago. Karen and I are coming to Chicago. We're going to hang out with you. We were waiting for the weather to change. How about that? We were waiting for
almost there. I'm going to make sure you know when the weather changes. I got to get y'all here so we can show you a great time.
That's what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, you all have a good night. Don't forget, go ahead and follow Coach Della Major, purchase her book, and then follow her on all of her platforms. And definitely subscribe to her podcast so you will be able to capture all of what God is doing in her and through her so you can get what you're supposed to get. You all have a good night, guys. Everybody, thank you again for subscribing and liking this channel and putting a comment. Let me know what part of the talk tonight you enjoy the most. See you. God bless you. Have a good night.